Welcome back to Ke Zaka Stokvel Insights. This week we look at the investment of long-term assets and various ways that stokvel groups can generate revenue with my guest expert, Thabiso Masudubele. Ntate, before the break, we were just touching on, the importance of having a very solid foundation for stokvel groups. When we look at the case study for this week, which is Family Trust Society, they want to start investing in long-term assets and they want to generate revenue. How can they start this process?
Yeah, I think we spoke about the first step of everyone agreeing that they're fine with doing long-term, and then they have to define what that long-term looks like. And so once everyone is agreed on that, there are different ways to look at this long-term investing. The first start would probably go to a bank that they're familiar with. Now, every financial service institution has more than what you think it may have. So I know a lot of groups imagine a bank is only a place where you go and you make a deposit, either at the ATM or at the teller, and that's the end of it. But banks have actually a lot more capacity than that. And that's the information we try to share with stokvels, to say that through your bank, you can actually engage with an advisor, a registered and qualified advisor, who then takes you through the process of what a long-term investment would look like. So the process of investment, there are a couple of things that you have to look at. And that's why this thing called financial advice is a very detailed process. So you'd have an expert then go take them through the process and say, right, what are your end goals? What kind of budget are you looking at? What are your expenses? What's your revenue? And this would be at an individual level as well as at a group level, to say this is your group. What does your financial situation look like as a group? And then once you discuss all those questions, the expert will then be able to look at it and say, based on all the information that we've gathered, here are the different instruments that you can look at. Here are the options that you have, given your affordability, given your risk appetite, given your expenses, because you also don't want to invest at the expense of things that you need on a daily as a group. So all of these things that are in one basket would then be considered. After that, the financial advisor would then say, given all of these things, here are your options. If you're looking at, if you define long-term to be 3 to 5 years, here are the options and here are the possible, returns that you're looking at. If this is your risk appetite, these are the instruments that you are looking at. If you're looking for higher returns with a bit more volatility, and a bit riskier, but the returns are higher. If your risk appetite levels are high, these are the options that you are looking at. So that for me would be the first step, to engage with an authorized and suitably qualified financial expert who then guide you through this financial advice process.
And this process is obviously not for free. Let's just get that part out of it before you continue.
Yes. No, you'd have to pay, but it is regulated. So even with financial advisors, they will disclose that if you take this instrument, this is how much I'll be earning based on the instrument that you've taken. So all of it has, because of the fact that it's regulated, it becomes very transparent. So financial advisors are by law forced to divulge that type of information to people who are investing. And that's a plus in the sense that should you have, a query, there would be then some recourse. If you're dealing with someone who's authorized. And again, don't look at investment options that aren't within the framework of the law, because you don't have recourse. Things like pyramid schemes and so on, those are not investment options. And once your money is gone, it's gone. The chances of you and your group getting your money back are
zero.
Somewhere between -1 and 0. So you have to. So those are the kinds of things that people would look at. And then from there are other options. As you asked, people then might say, so if we're not interested in that and we don't have, the revenue, we've got some money, are there other options? There are other options, depending on what you do as a group and what you identify for yourself. There are other options to generate revenue for yourself as a group.
Let's just look at those options, because Mme Thabeleng did talk about how they're also interested in, succession planning and the stokvel group itself to turn into some form of a legacy group so that their kids can also enjoy, the fruits of their labor. And we have had a stokvel that actually has had a good succession plan on the show as well. So with the current model that they have, do you think it's possible for them to achieve the succession planning?
Yes, I do. In fact, I think that's one of the things that they have going for them, because they have thought about it and they want to include their children in this thing. And that's something that we always encourage. And it has a couple of advantages. I think one is that you're increasing the pool and you're making sure that there's a legacy. Their children, as they're coming in, they're understanding the role of the group, the objectives, and so on. But also what that does is that because, you know, the technological advancements that happen, the world changes every day. And so as the world changes, it means the group also has to adapt to these changes, the way things work. So for instance, you know, there are some groups where there's no generational integration. You have, for instance, where people are contributing money in the form of cash. They don't trust, you know, technology that's around to be able to do a cashless society. And then they get robbed and all these sorts of things. So once the younger generation gets in, they're able to then migrate the group from those old ways and integrate them and help them use the new ways that are introduced by technology. So there are all sorts of advantages to that thing. So we encourage groups to say, yes, please do make sure that it continues. And the fact that you think about legacy and continuity as a group is a huge plus, because what that then shows us is that people are thinking beyond the short term and they're thinking long term.
And they're looking at it as more of a business.
100%. And the minute you start looking at things long term, that's where you start creating long term wealth. So it's not just about me creating a little bit of money for me now, but you're thinking about how can I make sure that not only I benefit, but my children and my children's children. Now, once you go down that route, you're forced to then look at it as a business and start structuring it as a business. And then you have to look at those little things like the administration. The fact that, you know, 7 out of 10 people aren't coming to a meeting, those kinds of things now need to stop. You now need to run it like a business and put in place all the things that you need to put in place to make sure that you achieve your goals, whether it's to buy assets that you can generate revenue from, whether it's to make investments that you can generate interest from. But you have to then start running it as a formal entity.
Well, thank you very much for that insight, Thabiso. Wishing you all of the best.
Thank you, ma'am.
If your Stokvel or Burial Society needs to know more about this broad topic, please do contact us using the details on the screen. Until next week, that's it from me.
This program was brought to you by Tyvision Media, helping Stokvels and burial societies reach their goals.